It's time for the Daily Stand Up Podcast presented by AgileDad with your host, Lee Henson. Without any further ado, let's get started. Okay, it's time for a confession. I've been brought to the table with this question before, and it's one of the things that I find very interesting because it's a chicken and the egg kind of thing, right? So I was working with a development team, and the development team came right up to me, and one of the developers, one of the lead developers, somebody I know and love, somebody I trust. He says, "You know I love you, right?" I said, "Yeah, what's going on, man?" He says, "I don't want this to come across wrong." He says, "But why do we always plan stuff?" I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well," he says, "let me put it to you this way." He says, "We're using Agile, right?" I said, "Of course." He says, "Agile values responding to change over following a plan. So, in other words, we don't need to have a delivery plan. Instead, we should just play it by ear and only plan on a sprint by sprint basis." I sat and thought about that for a moment. I said, do we truly need a delivery plan if we're in Agile? And it struck me as curious, right? So I wanted to examine this assertion and consider how it aligns with the Agile Manifesto and how it aligns with other things that I've learned. Now, I've heard the quote from Eisenhower a number of times. Plans are useless, but planning is indispensable. That's the big quote. Yes, plans are useless, but planning is indispensable. If that's true, we need to understand the difference between a plan and planning. So, a plan is a detailed proposal for doing or achieving something. It's like a beacon, offering stakeholders a clear vision and placing realistic expectations on what's going to be done. It can project a rough timeline for marketing activities or other activities, training, whatever, in addition to the actual planning of building what's going on. So if you know me well, you know I'm dear friends with Mike Cohn, and in his book Agile Estimating and Planning, it introduces plans as guidance to investment decisions, helping us know who needs to be available to work on a project during a given time frame, and if a project is on track to deliver the functionalities that the users may need and expect. In short, plans usually take the form of a document or a figure, and they're a big picture of how a project is supposed to unfold or what things are supposed to happen. Planning, however, is a quest for value. It is an activity done continually, responding to feedback from users. Planning helps the team adjust their original plan towards a final destination to serve different purposes. Product teams structure and frame different levels of planning. In a fast paced world, Agile teams achieve this by planning on three horizons. They plan for a release, if you do formal releases, an iteration, and then the current day, right? So if you think about it from that perspective, we embrace and adapt to the changes in the Agile world. There's no doubt that Agile focuses more on planning than on creation of a plan. However, it doesn't mean that we don't need to plan for to outline as a blueprint or as a guideline or guardrails. A plan sets the destination and expectations, and planning corrects and perfects the plan towards the destination and success. While looking back at the assertion that my friend made, it reminded me that neither over planning nor having no plan at all are beneficial. It needs to be just right, the Goldilocks principle. We all plan differently at different levels as well, and get a sense of clarity progressively as we get closer towards reaching our goal. So, a quick heads up: we're working on a fundamental source project or product for a major client, and we need some sort of innovation in this industry, but it is still relatively traditional compared to other industries. Maybe it's in banking or finance. Each requirement must meet specific regulations and workflow. We plan with a waterfall method. However, working with an agile mindset and executing the work with agility helps us better achieve the final goal. So instead of going either solely agile or solely waterfall, we've adopted an agile waterfall hybrid model, which is what a lot of people are tending to do. And this is why we're seeing a renaissance in the role of the agile project manager, which is really interesting because they're not a project manager at all, but they're also not a scrum master. It's just this interesting role that I'm starting to see and try to figure out. So in this case, you're planning at four levels, which gives you a general idea what problem the product tries to solve, but also allows you flexibility to change in development if needed. So the four levels: product, that's the roadmap level. In a product planning stage, the product manager leads the team to define the overall product strategy and choose on a development approach, how they're going to build it, set project timelines, prioritize high level features to meet specific goals, and respond to market needs. At the end of the stage, you end up with a deliverable in the form of a product roadmap. And it articulates the strategic reasoning for the project, why it's important, and what at a high level we're trying to achieve, right? And many times broken down by quarter, but it doesn't have to be. I'm just saying it's a great representation of the large picture plan. Yes? Then there's the release, which is a delivery plan. So if you think about it, if you're doing DevOps or DevSecOps, a lot of the emphasis is placed on how we're going to get the product or service to our customer in a secure and, in a way that's easy to deliver, the correct features with the correct set of functionality to partake of those features. So with that being said, release planning breaks down the product roadmap into specific actionable releases and details which features and functionalities are to be included in each of the individual releases. So unlike traditional Gantt charting or Can't charting, I love to say that, which is based on activities and delivery from individuals, this delivery plan is based on features and functionalities. So if you're trying to think of, in the case of waterfall, the very detailed, dependency oriented, broken down to the task level, all those things. If you're iteratively planning to respond to change and request as the user needs it, you can have a detailed plan, but it's too rigid. So your plan needs to be focused on a single release rather than an entire development of a big bang project. So this is the reason or logic behind having a release plan. One of the things that I promote is, of course, rapid release planning, which is pretty incredible. If you've never tried it, you need to. Then you have sprint planning or iteration level. Iteration planning is also called sprint planning. Considering the complexity of the work as well as the feedback loop, we set each sprint should contain 3 to 5 features, and I'm not so picky about the number, but it should be 2 weeks long. And before a sprint planning meeting, the product manager refines and prioritizes the backlog with the team, of course. And at the refinement meeting, the team asks clarifying questions, and at sprint planning, they hammer out the details, and they make sure they allocate people to take on the first items of work. And then the team will swarm subsequent work after and just knock them out on a first in, first out basis from the backlog, based on the way that the product owner arranges those in an objective stack rank order. So this is where the team's going to work every 2 weeks to build out what they need to do. And then finally, you have the current day outcome, or the daily scrum. This is the final layer of planning. This is where the team communicates what's going on, helps keep them aligned on tasks, helps identify if there are areas that require additional discussion or cross-team discussion, and it could be any type of alignment and accountability. So this is where everyone's just going to have to come to the table and talk about what's going on, because being agile means we're able to stay flexible when confronted with challenges and keep our minds open. However, it doesn't mean that we don't have to plan. It doesn't mean we fly by the seat of our pants. Embracing agile mindset and working with agility, along with a solid plan, a lightweight plan on hand, it gives you the effort that you're looking for in the amount of time that's necessary to complete the right amount of work. That's going to do it. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have a topic you want us to discuss, learn more at AgileDad.com. We'd love to hear from you. As always, we encourage you to stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Until next time, do take care.